कब पब्लिश हुई है सर?
और उस हवाले से इसने इंडिया का भी रेफरेंस दिया है कि इंडिया उन्हें मुंबई उसमें गिरफ्तार करना चाहता था। तो मेरा ताल्लुक रहा है जनाब गुल से भी, मेरी याद अल्लाह रही है। मैंने ये सवाल उनसे पूछा था, उन्होंने कहा मुंबई हमले से पाकिस्तान का भी कोई ताल्लुक नहीं है। मेरा ताल्लुक तो बड़ी दूर की बात है, पाकिस्तान का भी कोई ताल्लुक नहीं। तो ये जो सारी सूरत हाल है लिखती हैं, पाकिस्तान हैज टू रिकॉग्नाइज that it simply cannot match India through whatever stratagem it chooses. It is bound to fail. मतलब इसमें क्लियर कट स्टांस जो है वो एंटी पाकिस्तान उन्होंने लिया है। और मजीद इससे भी ज्यादा तहज़ीक आमेज़ में वो लिखती हैं, Pakistan is a purely greedy state, as the evidence at present intimates. If so, then any policy of appeasement may in fact aggravate the problem that Pakistan poses to regional and international security. This is exactly the conclusion that I hope readers will draw from my work here. Pakistan may have legitimate security concern, but at the root of its revisionism is not security, but rather deep ideological commitment that predates the independence of the state. This suggests that those who are interested in Pakistan and its destabilizing impact on regional and international security must thus adopt an attitude of global realism about the possible future for Pakistan and the region if threatened. तो ये एक्नॉलेजमेंट में वो कहती हैं, I am also indebted to the many Pakistan with whom I have had the benefit of interacting over many years, including Muhammad Ali Durrani, Hussain Haqqani, Faranaz Isfahani, Jahangir Karamat, Maliha Lodi, Shiri Rahman, Commodore Zafar Iqbal and Ehsanul Haq, as well as numerous defense attaches like Brigadier Butt and many more men in uniform that then can be possibly named here for space and prudence. Rights. Pakistan Inter-Services Public Relation facilitated travel and meeting request and answered questions. Khalid Hussain, ostensibly from the Ministry of Information, was specifically helpful as he accompanied me during travel to South and North Waziristan, Swat, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Interior Sindh and other locals. He also personally delivered several Pakistan Army green books in a paper bag to me. These books are restricted. So, ये खातून जो हैं ये अर्बन बैटलफील्ड्स ऑफ साउथ एशिया, इस पे किताब ये लिखी है इन्होंने। ये इसमें बड़ी वजाहत कर देती हैं। The research described in the report was sponsored by the United States Army under contract number so and so. Rights reserved. No part of this book may be reproduced in any form by any electronic or mechanical means, including photocopying, recording, or information storage and retrieval, without permission to writing from Ron. This is Research and Development Organization of US Army. लेकिन इसमें जो ये लिखती हैं, this research is a part of a large effort led by Research and Development Center to identify current US force requirements for urban contingency planning and to develop innovative approach for doing so. It is federally funded research and development sponsored by the United States Army. Clear cut ये उनकी. Under the nuclear umbrella, India and Pakistan. इसमें क्रिस्टाइन फेयर के साथ एशले डी टेलिस भी शामिल हैं और इसमें और ज़्यादा वजाहत की गई है. This research was conducted within the International Security and Defense Policy Center of Research and Development, National Security Research Division. NSRD conducts research and analysis for the Office of the Secretary of Defense, the Joint Staff, the Unified Commands, the Defense Agencies, the Department of the Navy and the US Intelligence Community, allied foreign governments and foundations. That means they are doing it for India as well, क्योंकि वो उनका अब डिफेंस का माहिदा है हमसे. इसमें एक चीज जो पाकिस्तान के बारे में स्पेसिफिकली वो मैं आपको Pakistan's inability to protect its interest vis-a-vis the international community and particularly India stems from the fact that its economic and political weaknesses increasingly make it strategically irrelevant. As discussed throughout the analysis, Kargil was significant because it demonstrated to Pakistan that it has virtually no catch in the community of nations. Its weak economy is subject to the vicissitudes of multilateral funding institutions. Its government has become widely criticized for its association with odious regimes such as the Taliban. Pakistan is unable to sell the case that its interest in Kashmir are legitimate and are responsible to India's human rights violation in the region, and it has been unable to convincingly corroborate its claim about India's incursion across the line of control, including India's occupation of Siachen. तो इन किताबों में टिल्ट सारा जो है वो पाकिस्तान के खिलाफ है. मजीद ये लिखते हैं, इंडिया इज नॉट लाइकली टू गिव पाकिस्तान ए चांस to flirt with Kargil-like situation in the future. New Delhi will watch the border in Kashmir and elsewhere carefully and with redouble its efforts to prevent infiltration. India understands that the most probable response from Pakistan will be efforts to calibrate the heat of the insurgency. This may entail a continuation of terrorist attacks throughout India. तो ये मतलब है सारा टिल्ड जो है वो इंडिया की तरफ है. वो उसकी वजाहत जो है, जो 2 मरतबा अमेरिका के प्रेसिडेंट रहे इससे कबल, इस सूरत हाल से पहले बिल क्लिंटन, उन्होंने माई लाइफ में बड़ी वजाहत से लिखी है और इसको भी ख़ास तौर पे अस्करी क़यादत को सोचना और समझना चाहिए. बिगिनिंग विद इंडिया वाज मेड. ये सफ़ा 597 पे लिखते हैं, I welcomed Prime Minister P.V. Narasimha Rao of India to the White House. The Cold War and clumsy diplomacy. I'll repeat. The Cold War and clumsy diplomacy had kept India and the United States apart for too long. With a population of nearly 1 billion, India was the world's largest democracy. Over the previous 3 decades, tension with China had driven it closer to the Soviet Union, and the Cold War had pushed the United States closer to India's neighbor Pakistan. So ये उसमें बड़ा क्लियरली कहते हैं. मजीद वो लिखते हैं, Prime Minister Rao and I broke the ice and began a new chapter in Indo-US relations, which continued to warm throughout my 2 terms and afterwards. अब ये इनकी जो सूरत हाल है एज कंपेयर टू पाकिस्तान, जो इसमें ये लिखते हैं, ये भी इनकी क्योंकि इनकी अपनी लिखी हुई है तो इसको आप इग्नोर नहीं कर सकते, बल्कि वी शुड ड्रा लेसन्स फ्रॉम देम. वो कहते हैं, I told Sharif that he was always welcome in Washington, even on July 4, but he wanted me to spend America's Independence Day with him. He had to come to the United States knowing 2 things. First, he had to agree to withdraw the troops back across the line of control, and second, I would not agree to interfere in the Kashmir dispute. मजीद लिखते हैं, after the meeting, I thought perhaps Sharif had come in order to use pressure from the United States to provide himself cover for ordering his military to defuse the conflict. I knew, Clinton कहते हैं, I knew he was on shaky grounds at home, and I hoped he would survive because I needed his cooperation in the fight against terrorism. What was that? वो भी बड़ी देखने वाली बात है.
Excuse me, sir. You can find us.
Yes, he did more to help. I would have to announce that Pakistan was in effect supporting terrorism in Afghanistan. यानी वो हाई लीडरशिप को भी ब्लैकमेलिंग करने से नहीं बाज आते हैं. On the day I met with Sharif, I also signed an executive order ordered placing economic sanction on the Taliban, freezing its assets and prohibiting commercial exchanges. Around the same time, with Sharif's support, US officials also began to train 60 Pakistani troops as commandos to go into Afghanistan to get bin Laden. Now this is entirely a military subject. और ये उन्होंने 60 इनके जरिए खुफिया तौर पे जिनको ट्रेन करना शुरू किया, इसके बारे में मजीद आगे कहते हैं वो. On October 12, Pakistan Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif was overthrown in a military coup headed by General Musharraf, who had led the Pakistan in a military coup headed by General Musharraf, who had led the Pakistan armed forces over the line of control in Kashmir. I was concerned about the loss of democracy and urged the restoration of civilian rule as soon as possible. Musharraf's ascendancy had one immediate consequence: the program to send Pakistani commandos into Afghanistan to catch or kill Osama bin Laden was cancelled. So, ये चीज़ें जो हैं इन पे बहुत ज़्यादा गौर व फिक्र करना चाहिए. और जहाँ तक अफ़गान महाजरीन की वापसी का ताल्लुक है, ये बहुत ही हसास इशू है, क्योंकि अफ़गान महाजरीन जो हैं अफ़गान जिहाद के हवाले से आए थे और अभी तक इनमें बहुत सारे जो इनके वो बने हुए थे, उनको यूनाइटेड नेशंस जो है वो सपोर्ट कर रही थी. तो इसके साथ साथ एक चीज़ ये भी मद्देनजर रखनी चाहिए कि करप्शन के बाइस बेतहाशा, चूँकि अफ़गानी दूसरे मुल्कों में भी गए थे, वहाँ से वो पैसा खर्च के पाकिस्तानी पासपोर्ट हासिल करने में कामयाब हुए और उस लिहाज से उनके शनाख्ती कार्ड बन गए. उसके अलावा जो बॉर्डर है अफगानिस्तान का, चाहे आपने बाढ़ लगा दी हैं, उसके बावजूद वो एक ऐसा इलाका है कि जहाँ की मेजर दरिया 5 हैं अफगानिस्तान में, और वो दरियाओं में चुगयानी लाते हैं बारिशों के ज़माने में, लेकिन एक सिर्फ काबुल रिवर जो है नौशेरा के रास्ते आके दरियाए सिंध में शामिल होता है. बकाया बड़ी बड़ी दलदलें बनाते हैं, बेतहाशा वहाँ सुरंगें हैं. तो उस लिहाज से ये अफ़गानी जो जफाकश लोग हैं, ये किसी न किसी तरीके से वापस आने की गुंजाइश रखते हैं. फिर इनमें बहुत सारे ऐसे हैं जिन्होंने लोकल्स के साथ शादियां की हैं या इनके बच्चों ने शादियां की हैं और उस लिहाज से उनको शनाख्ती कार्ड मिल गए हैं. तो ये एक हसास मामला है, इस पे बड़ी सोच विचार करनी चाहिए. उसकी वजह यह भी है कि तालिबान इस वक्त अपने फुल ब्लूम में हैं और मैं एक कोटेशन के साथ इसको एंड करूंगा इस बातचीत को कि वी शुड टेक लेसन्स फ्रॉम द हिस्ट्री. इट टुक 4 presidents of USA 20 years, spending trillions of dollars with enormous casualties to replace Taliban with Taliban. So thank you very much. We can have questions.